You can draw this in Procreate. During this tutorial, we are going to draw this medallion with a landscape inside. As always, you don't need any experience with drawing or with Procreate at all. I will guide you through every single step. And once you have reached the end of the video, once you have created your own medallion, don't forget to share it online. If you share it on Instagram, don't forget to tag me in the image, not just in the description. That way I will be able to find your work and perhaps we'll see it in the next video. Also, if you are enjoying these You Can Draw This video tutorials, then it would be great if you could give your support by hitting that thumbs up, leaving a comment, subscribing to the channel. And if that's not enough for you, then go check out my Patreon page, where I don't just share loads of brushes, but also a lot more Procreate tutorials. But now let's get started with this tutorial. First of all, the canvas is 2300 pixels by 3000 pixels. I have created a color palette for you, which you can download through the link in the description. It's totally free, of course. We'll also be using some brushes that are in the treasure chest brush pack. You can get that through freefromflow.com. The first thing we are going to do is pick this color, that first color in the color palette, and we are going to drag it onto our canvas by just dragging that circle onto it. And now we are going to grab the soft brush under airbrushing. It's right here, and we are going to pick this next color over here, that slightly lighter color. I have the opacity set to 50%. And the size is at 20%. And we are going to lighten the lower half of the canvas. So make some strokes, some horizontal strokes to around, well, about 1/3 of the canvas. Then make another stroke, which will be slightly lighter since we are using a low opacity brush. You can slowly build it up so that the lower part is lighter than the upper part. To make the transition softer, you can go to the magic wand here, go for Gaussian blur, pick layer, and then drag your pen or your finger to the right on your screen. That will blur this layer. Let's go for 34.1% and then just click the magic wand again. Now we have a nice base. To get started, let's make a new layer. Let's go to the layer menu, click the plus for a new layer, and let's grab the monoline brush, which you can find under calligraphy. For the color, we are going to pick this second color in this row. The opacity of the brush is at 100% and let's set the size to, let's say 15%, and let's draw a circle. Draw a circle, hold your pen in place to make it snap to the quick shape, and then hold one finger on your screen to make it snap to a perfectly round circle. Then drag in the color we're using. And you might need to adjust your color drop threshold by holding your pen in place and then dragging it to the left or right to make sure that your circle is entirely filled and you don't get that light edge around. And now let's make sure our circle is centered. Let's go to the arrow over here and make sure that snapping is turned on. And now you can drag your circle around and make sure that you see that vertical orange line. Let's move it down just a little bit. And then click the arrow again to get out of that menu. Now we are going to duplicate this layer. Let's go to the layer menu, then drag to the left on layer 2, click duplicate, and then pick this color over here. Drag it onto the circle, then go to the arrow and make this circle a little bit smaller. Make sure that you have it set to uniform though, so that it will stay a perfectly round circle. And then make sure that you place it in the center of the other circle. Let's make it even smaller until you have an edge around that looks a bit like this, and then click the arrow again. Now we are going to duplicate this layer. Let's drag to the left again, click duplicate, and then go to the bottom one and pick this light color over here. Drag it on top of the circle, then go to the arrow and make this one a little bit bigger again. Move it around. Make it even bigger, a bit smaller perhaps. Make sure it's centered, and so you have this little edge around this lighter circle. I'm gonna make it just a little bit smaller until you have something that looks like this. Then click the arrow again, and now you can turn off this layer by clicking this check mark. We are going to use it later. Now click layer 1 and make a new layer by clicking the plus. We are going to use this light color, which we already had selected, and we are going to use the symmetry tool. Let's go to the wrench, then go to canvas, and then turn on drawing guide. Then go to edit drawing guide and click symmetry. Then click done. And now whatever we paint on the left side will show up on the right side and vice versa. We're using the monoline brush. Let's start about here in the center of that line, then go up and to the middle line until you have a shape like this. Now I started in the center here so that we have a closed shape behind these circles. Look, it's closed, so we are able to fill it by dragging in the color. Now, if it's a bit wobbly, you might need to adjust it a little bit until it looks the way you want it to look. Next, it's time to add the chain. We're going to make a layer underneath our layer 5 for that, but first let's turn off the assisted drawing here. Click the layer, turn off drawing assist, so we won't be using symmetry on this layer again. And also, let's get rid of that line. Let's go to the wrench and turn off drawing guide because we won't be needing that anymore. Now let's click layer 1 and then click the plus for a new layer, and here we are going to add the chain. And that will be super easy because I have added a new brush to the treasure chest, and it's a chain brush. Let's go check it out. Here we have the chain brush. Let's use this color for that. The second color, and the opacity of the brush is at 100% and the size is at 40%. Now let's start about here and make a swooping line up, and let's do the same on the other side. Start about here and go up. You might need a couple of tries to make it look good. Now that we have all these flat colors, it's time to add texture. Let's start with our circles. Let's go to layer 2 here. Let's click the layer and turn on alpha lock, so we won't be able to paint outside of this shape. Now we are going to use this layer, that middle layer, click it and use select. And we are going to feather our selection. Now that will make the edge of our selection more soft. Let's click feather and let's go for 5%. Now we are going to that layer 2, that bottom layer 2. And for our brush, we are going to use the Is It Grunge brush. And for our color, we'll use this third color over here. Now, the opacity of the brush is at 100%, and let's set the size to, let's say 20%. And let's go over the edge here, giving it a dark inner edge and some texture at the same time. You can go over multiple times. Let's make this bottom area nice and dark, and up here as well, so that we still have some variation. It's a bit darker here, and here it's a bit lighter on the left and right side. And now let's invert our selection to also add a lighter edge. To invert our selection, we need to click and hold the S-shaped ribbon, and then go to invert. Now we can pick a lighter color. Let's pick this one, that first color. And then let's pick the brush, and then let's go over the edge. You can barely see this, but it's adding some texture, very subtle. And then let's go to this color, that fourth color, that's even lighter. And let's add a light edge here in the upper right area, and also a light edge here in the lower left. And then you can click the S-shaped ribbon to turn off the selection. Since we won't be needing this selection anymore, we can actually remove this middle layer. Let's swipe to the left and click delete. Now let's add texture to layer 5. Again, click the layer and turn on alpha lock so we won't be able to paint outside of the shape. We'll still be using the Is It Grunge brush. Let's first pick this color, that fifth color, and add some darker colors, some dark texture to this area. Then let's switch to this very dark color, that third one, And let's darken that lower area here, only that lower area. Use a couple of swipes, and now we can lighten the top area. Let's pick this first color, add some slight texture here to the top. So we'll have dark colors here at the bottom and lighter ones here. And then let's switch to that fourth color here, which is even lighter. And let's make the brush a bit smaller. Let's go for 6% perhaps. Let's add some light touches here to the side. Use multiple strokes. And let's add a lighter line here. And let's go even smaller. Let's go for 3%. And make a horizontal line here, like a little shine. And we can add some more shine on this side as well with these little diagonal lines until it looks like this. Now let's work on the chain. Let's go to the chain layer. It's over here, layer 6. Let's create a new layer on top by clicking the plus, then click that new layer, and then use clipping mask. Now whatever we paint on that layer which has clipping mask turned on will only show up on that chain layer. We are going to add some light touches, and to do that we are going to use another layer blending mode. It is set to normal now, that's why we see a little N. And we are going to set it to screen. Let's scroll down and set it to screen. And for the color, we are going to use this first color over here. And let's zoom in a little bit on our chain. Now we are going to add light touches. Let's start here with this chain. We are going to focus on the left side of this chain. Then we'll skip this one. Add light to this little chain. I'll make multiple strokes. Then we'll skip a chain again and add light to this one. Then we'll move to this side. And again, let's add light to the left side. Skip a chain link, then go here. Add that light. And then skip one again and add light here. Now we are going to the eraser tool, and I have the eraser set to the fine liner brush, which is part of the treasure chest brush pack. The opacity of the eraser is set to 100% and the size is at 20%. And now let's erase parts. Let me zoom in a little bit more. We are going to erase around that chain like this. Sometimes you might need to undo a little part. So we'll erase here on the left side, follow that shape of the chain, and on the inside here as well, to make it appear as if it's separate from that other chain. And here as well, clean that up. And over here, make it separate. We'll do the same thing on this side. Clean this up. We can first do the left sides like this, and then the right sides, which are a little bit more challenging. Just go over here in this little area. And now we are going to do something similar, but with shadows, with dark areas. We are going to make a layer in between these. So first click this one, then click the plus for a new layer, and let's set this one to the multiply layer blending mode, which is great to add shadows. For the color, let's pick this one. And now let's add shadows to the opposite side of that chain. So every time we'll skip a chain and just make that other side darker. Make multiple strokes to add that shadow here as well. shadow here, a shadow here, and a shadow here. Now we are going to use the eraser again. Now over here we are going to follow that chain. So we're going to erase that and this. I might need to make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's go for 12% to make it a bit more precise. So follow that chain and erase that part. And over here, follow that chain. And then on this side, as if you are drawing that chain, just go over it like this. So that it seems as if it's in front of that area. All right, this one. So now we have added light and shadow to these parts of the chain. Now we are going to add some shadow and light to these chain parts, but just some subtle shadows and highlights. So let's use this multiply layer now first, and let's add some shadow on these sides. Here on the right, just glaze over it a little bit on each of these chains. Like that, and we'll do the same for the lights on layer 6 here with screen turned on. Let's go back to this color in the color palette, and let's add some subtle light to these left sides. Over here, and then on this side, just some subtle light. And now when we zoom out, it looks a lot more like a real chain. Now let's create a little landscape inside of our medallion. Now you can follow these steps that we'll be taking, or you can use any of the other landscapes we did during the You Can Draw This video tutorials, of course. Let's go to the layer menu and then to layer 2, and let's click the plus for a new layer and turn on clipping mask. So whatever we paint, it'll only show up on that circle. Let's go and grab the airbrush, the soft brush under airbrushing, and let's pick this color over here. I want to lighten up the bottom part a little bit, making some horizontal strokes, creating this nice gradient. Then I'll make the brush smaller. Let's go for 5%, and I'll make some lighter lines here. It's a very basic landscape. A little line here. Now let's add some trees to our scene. Let's create a new layer by clicking the plus, turn on clipping mask so our trees will only show up on a circle. And let's go back to the treasure chest brush pack and use the pine tree brushes. Let's first use the pine tree broad. Let's pick this color, that 5th color. The opacity is at 100% and the size is at 40%. Now let's just drop in some trees here in the foreground. And then let's switch to the pine tree long. It's also set to 100% opacity and 40% in size. And let's drop in some of these as well. Next, we'll create a new layer in between these two. First, click layer 8, then click the plus for a new layer. And let's go back to the soft brush under airbrushing, and we'll pick this pink over here. Now we're going to make some dabs in the sky. Just some random dabs. Make multiple strokes because our brush is a bit transparent. And let's do the same with this blue, that 4th color in the color palette. Just make some random dabs. Until it looks a bit like this. Now we are going to the smudge tool. Click the smudge tool and go to the abstract brushes and use the membrane brush. I have it set to 100% opacity and 100% in size. And now drag up from the bottom of these dabs upward with vertical strokes. Like this. I'm using very light pressure, and only making vertical strokes. Upward from the bottom to the top. Until you get something that looks similar to this. And if you want more light, you can just make another layer on top. You can go back to that soft brush, grab that pink again, for instance, and add some more dabs. You can also add some of these greens, that second color, and layer it on top. And then you can just go back to the smudge tool and blend these in by only making vertical strokes. That's very important, otherwise it won't look like Northern Light. It'll just look weird. Alright, I think this looks good. Let's make a new layer on top of these. Let's click the plus. And let's pick this color over here, that very light blue. And for the brush, let's use the monoline brush. We are going to create a circle. So just draw a circle, hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen to make a perfectly round circle, and then drag in the color to fill your shape. Now let's go to the move tool, that's the little arrow up here, and make sure that it's centered. Then click the arrow again to get out of there. And now we are going to lower the opacity of this layer. Let's click the N and then drag the slider until you are at 80%. And now we are going to add a layer mask. Click the layer, then click mask. And now let's grab the airbrushing brush, again the soft brush. It is set to black right now, so when we paint on the layer mask with black, we will start masking parts of this layer. Let's make the brush a little bit bigger. Let's go for 16%, and let's go over that center area, slowly masking a part of that light layer. Stroke by stroke. You can make it even bigger. Our brush, let's go for 30%. Make that center part fully black on the layer mask. And let's go over these areas as well. Here in the upper left, we'll block a bit more, and here on the lower right as well, until you can barely see that light. Now for an extra light touch, we'll create a new layer on top by clicking the plus, and we'll make the brush smaller this time. Let's go for 8%, and let's add some more light. Let's make the brush even smaller. Let's go for 3%. And follow the round shape of our circle. Make a rounded line for an even brighter highlight. Now let's make one over here as well. Make a rounded motion, adding this bright highlight. Now I want to add a slight shadow around the medallion, around the inside. So we'll make a new layer on top of layer 9 here. Click the plus. Make sure that you turn on clipping mask, and let's set the layer to multiply. So click the N, go up to multiply, and then for the color, let's use this blue color over here. And now let's just go along the edge of the medallion, adding a darker shadow edge here. Doesn't have to be super tidy. Just go along the edge. We can soften it later. Something like this, and then just go to the magic wand, click Gaussian blur, set it to layer, and drag your pen to the right. And let's blur it. Blur it 10.5%, and then click the magic wand again. You are almost there. Finally, I would like to make a little reflection here at the bottom. To do that, we are going to group all of these layers except for layer 1, which is the background layer. Slide to the right on all of these layers to select every one of them. Then click group, close the group by clicking this little arrow thingy. And now I'm going to duplicate this entire group. Now it could be that your iPad can't handle that. In that case, you will have to flatten this group first by clicking it and then clicking flatten. But in case you want to change anything later on this medallion, you might just want to duplicate your entire canvas first. So your entire project. You'll have to go to the gallery, duplicate your project, and then you will always have a backup. But for me, I'm just going to duplicate my group by sliding to the left, clicking duplicate. Then I'll go to the bottom group, click it, and then use flatten. Now, if you had to flatten your group, then you can just duplicate that new layer that you got, that flat layer. Now we have our duplicate medallion. Let's go to the arrow over here and then use flip vertical. Now we are going to drag this down to the bottom and make sure that you have this little blue line so you'll know that it's centered, or the orange line. You'll just need to make sure that it's centered like this, and then click the arrow again. Now let's blur it just slightly. Let's go to the magic wand, then to Gaussian blur, set it to layer, then slide your pen or your finger to the right. Let's go for 5%. And let's also lower the opacity a little bit by clicking the N and dragging the slider to the left. Let's go for 60%. Then click the layer and give it a mask. We'll be using the soft brush, set to black. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's go for 10% and block that lower area a bit. So make these horizontal strokes, masking that area. Now we'll create another layer for a little shadow. Let's click the plus in the layer menu. Let's set the layer blending mode to multiply to add a shadow. Then we'll still be using the soft brush, and for the color we'll pick this one over here. Let's set the brush size to 5% and let's make a horizontal stroke or multiple horizontal strokes right here near the bottom. And if you need to soften it a little bit, you can just go to the magic wand, click Gaussian blur, set it to layer, and drag your pen to the right on the screen and go for something like 10%. And then click the magic wand again. And there you have your landscape inside a medallion. I hope you have enjoyed following this tutorial. I hope you have learned some new techniques. Let me know in the comments if you did. Thank you so much for your support, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time for the next You Can Draw This video tutorial.